Hello, everybody, and welcome back. This is episode 45 of High Street Sports. My name is Chris. This is Vince. After a little bit of a lengthy layoff, we are back with another episode of the Buckeye Show here on High Street Sports. As everybody knows, I can't remember exactly when the last episode we did was, but a lot has happened and will always continue to happen surrounding Ohio State Buckeyes football and Ohio State athletics in general. So we'll get into a little bit of this, a little bit of that in this episode. Vince, what's going on, man? Welcome back to the pod. Glad to see you. How you feeling?
Not a whole lot. It's been kind of a long off season so far, and there was kind of a big lull with the hiring of Bill O'Brien, and then the commitment of Caleb Downs and Dominic Kirks, and then it just went quiet for a couple of weeks. So not a whole lot to share, and I think we got a little more to talk about today. So let's get right into it. Let's talk about coaching staff moves. Do you want to start with your favorite subject at this time of the year, or do you want to leave that to the end?
No, we'll save that. We'll do the fun stuff first.
All right.
So yeah, I mean, I think unless you've been living under a rock, you have known that Bill O'Brien was hired, and about as fast as Bill O'Brien got to Columbus, he has left for good reasons. I don't think anybody, if you really dig into the situation, will knock Bill for the decision that he made. It was kind of a, out of all the names that were tossed around the Buckeye beat, Bill O'Brien was not the one that really anybody saw coming. And then that quickly turned into a lot of questions, but then a lot of intrigue. And then it's about as fast as all that happened, he was gone. So he is off to Boston College, and replacing him is Chip Kelly. Chip Kelly, obviously, I think everybody knows by this point, Ryan Day is a Chip Kelly
disciple. I mean, he was his OC in college. I think he coached with him early on. We know he coached with him at the 49ers before he came to the Buckeyes. So a lot of connection there between Chip Kelly and Ryan Day. I think you're going to see a lot of trust from Ryan Day in play calling duties and overall offensive game plan and playing.
Yeah, I think it's going to be, when you really look at what this Ohio State offense, the roster makeup is, it's a lot of intrigue that's there, around the whole offense, all the playmakers, obviously people of the team up north and everybody else has kind of been scratching their heads at both Bill O'Brien and Chip Kelly hires. But I mean, I think when you really look at it, Chip Kelly likes to run the ball, and what better to do that than with Travion Henderson and Quinshaw Judkins and Dallin Hayden. So, I mean, that's a big plus there. And then when you look at the receivers that Ohio State is bringing to the table, Emeka Egbuka, Brandon Ennis, Carnell Tate, Jeremiah Smith, and everybody else that's there. You think about the motion, the pre-snap motion, the really intricate kind of gadget plays that Chip Kelly has been known for in the past with Oregon and even some at UCLA with DTR and Zach Charbonnet. So I mean, there's a lot on the table with Chip Kelly, and I think a lot of it is mostly good. And really, the only question mark there now is what is the offensive line going to look like going forward? So, there's another transfer portal window and some things there that we can, with spring practice, see if we can get the offensive line cleaned up and figured out a little bit. But I really like the Chip Kelly hire. I like the Bill O'Brien hire, but I think, I'm just as okay with Chip Kelly as I am with Bill O'Brien, because I think the consensus was with Bill O'Brien that, he was coming in to just be an extension of the Ryan Day offense, kind of run the Ryan Day offense and not really change it up too much. I think with Chip Kelly coming in, it'll kind of be that same expectation. But, Chip Kelly is a guy that can even further that. So, yeah, I mean, I think it's a good hire. What say you?
Yeah, I think I'm excited for Chip Kelly. Thinking back to some of his days at Oregon and how prolific some of those offenses were, and really stemmed around the run game and zone read, and some of those concepts there. You've got a quarterback that can run it, actually two, Will Howard and Devin Brown. So I think there's going to be a lot of intrigue in the spring once they start practicing and really what is the offense going to look like? And I think you're going to see a very basic, more Ryan Day style offense probably in the spring, and then as time goes on, you'll probably see more Chip Kelly influence there. Um, I think that Chip Kelly kind of has a bad rap since his time at Oregon, because
Hmm.
he went to the NFL, wasn't very successful there, did not do well with the Eagles or the 49ers, and then came back to a kind of struggling UCLA program, and really kind of failed to launch there. I don't know that that was necessarily his fault, but it's an interesting situation when you're moving from UCLA, a team that's moving into the Big Ten,
Hmm.
um, as a head coach, to um, walk away from that job and walk right into Ohio State and become the offensive coordinator.
Hmm.
Um, so you have to wonder, did he want this step back? Was it more fitting for what his life now is? I want to say he's probably in his 60s at this point. So he's probably ready to kind of slow it down. Actually, I apologize. He is 60 years old on the nose. So, he's probably in that phase of coaching where he's like, all right, let's slow it down a little bit, less responsibility, but still get to be around the guys and coach football. So I think this is going to be really good. Um, and in other news, James Laurinaitis was elevated to a full-time position, linebackers coach, this actually today on
Hmm.
February the 15th.
Yep.
So really exciting there too. I think that we know that he's been on the road as the 10th coach recruiting for the last few months. I think this is really just kind of to codify that and cement his role on the team. I'm really excited there to see what James Laurinaitis can do. In addition to him being one of those influences that can influence the team about the rivalry.
Hmm.
He went through it, he played in it. He's, a Buckeye through and through, even though he's from Minnesota. Uh, I'm excited to see what he can do, especially with the prospect of Sonny Styles moving down to linebacker.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's huge for the program in general. There's been a lot of talk about how the full-time assistants were outweighed on the offensive side of the football as opposed to the defensive side of the football. So it's nice to have a little bit of even throughout the coaching staff between the offense and the defense. And then you mentioned the uh, added bonus of him being able to be on the road and recruit, be in the kids' houses and talk to the parents and things like that on the road. So, all good things for the Buckeyes. And then going back to our previous argument about said coaching change and decision. Now we get to see what James is like as a full-time position coach, what the benefits could be from that, and really what the linebackers can gain from having a Buckeye legend linebacker and the Rams all-time leading tackler be the captain of that room now. So I think it's big news for the Buckeyes defense, and another really really strong piece potentially for Jim Knowles as they continue to build continuity and build arguably, if not the best defense in the country. So the only way to really fortify that and make sure that stands the test of time is to get really good coaches. So we'll see if James can bring that to the table and see what he can add to that Buckeye defense. In addition to James Laurinaitis being announced as the full-time linebackers coach for Ohio State, Jim Knowles was given a 2-year extension through 2026. Really no surprise
Well
there. I
deserved.
think I think everybody can agree with that. It's been kind of amazing to see where he was able to pull the Ohio State defense to in the last 2 years, and
Mhm.
with the notable returns on defense, and with Caleb Downs now joining the fold. It'll be very, very exciting to
Mhm.
see, where this defense goes. In addition, Tim Walton was given a
Hold
2 year
hold
extension.
on. Let's call him by his real name, Timothy Walton.
Timothy Walton given a 2 year extension and a well deserved promotion to assistant head coach to kind of facilitate some of that well deserved money that is coming his way. Also, keeping him in the program throughout 2026. So, big, big, big moves for the Ohio State defense. As far as those two moves go, I think those are two guys that have really proven their worth in the last 2 seasons, and it's really a no-brainer in my opinion to keep those guys around. And obviously, when a guy like Tim Walton has been able to recruit the way he's been able to recruit in the last 2 cycles, you look at that guy and pair him up with Jim Knowles, and I mean that's two really good cornerstone pieces to your defense, and big time for the continuity there, as I mentioned earlier, which is something that before Jim Knowles had gotten there, the Ohio State defense hadn't had in quite some time. So again, I don't think those can be overstated enough. Larry Johnson given a 1 year extension through the completion of next year. I think all signs point to that kind of being a stopgap sort of deal until they find somebody that can come in and take over for Larry Johnson in that defensive line room. So interesting, not really surprising. A lot of people not very happy about that move on Twitter. I've noticed, since it's been announced. All of these moves, by the way, being announced after or right around 4 o'clock. So pretty recent news here as
Mhm.
of Thursday, February 15th. But I think to those people, I would say piss off. Larry Johnson has earned the right to be here. It's not like he's really. I don't think the defensive line is suffering at the
No.
expense of Larry Johnson being there. So, if you're one of those whiners about LJ keeping that job and sticking around another year, piss off. That's whatever. That's it's
Yeah, I think that's kind of telling. And the thing is Larry Johnson, and don't get me wrong, he's a great coach. He's probably the best defensive line coach of all time, period. The end, no matter what level of football, from Pee Wee all the way up to the NFL, best defensive line coach there is or ever will be. But people also need to realize that Joey Bosa, Nick Bosa, Chase Young, all generational players, all three right
Mhm.
in a row. You're not going to have three generational players and then just continue to pull in generational player after generational player, because
Right.
the whole point of a generational player is once in a generation.
Mhm.
And I think that well has run dry. And we're at a point now where you have some really good five stars that are continuing to develop. And really, at the end of the day, unless you're an absolute freak, you should be a senior defensive line coming, or defensive lineman coming out. There shouldn't be a lot of three and done at that position. There's just a lot to develop there, and it being such a big physical position, you need to have that body maturity when you go to the NFL. So I think that people that think he's fallen off are sadly mistaken, because, you continue to see Buckeye defensive linemen do very well in the NFL,
Mhm.
and outside of those three as well. So,
Mhm.
um, I would say one that I see you have on the notes here, but that one did not play for Larry Johnson. Um, and it's it, it's interesting to me to think that a guy like Larry Johnson can just forget it overnight. I can understand he's slowing down a little bit because he's an older guy, but Nah, man. Let the guy coach. Let him do his job and be a good guy and a good influence for those young men, and develop and continue to develop those men.
Yeah, and I think you hit on one of the more important points there is the development of young men. And I think a lot of times, people will get very, very caught up in the football aspect of things. But when you look at the character that Larry Johnson
Mhm.
brings to the table, he is exactly that. He's a developer of young men, and that's on and off the field. And I can't think of another coach that has brought the things that Larry brings to the table the way that he does, and has year in and year out. And as you mentioned before, like, I think Ohio State fans have gotten very spoiled in some respects,
Mhm.
especially with the Bosa's, Chase Young, and things like that, and what he was able to do. I think one of his more overlooked feats in the coaching world was turning a lacrosse player into a dominant defensive end, both in college and in the NFL. Sam Hubbard, man, look what he did
Let's
with him.
Mhm.
And I mean, so yeah, in my opinion, LJ has kind of earned the right to be here,
Mhm.
as long as he wants, in my opinion.
Don't sell Sam Hubbard short. He played safety in
No,
high school.
which is true as all. Yeah,
Safety.
which is
And
true
then
also.
came in and played linebacker and
Hmm.
tight end and couldn't find a position for the first year he was at Ohio State. Finally landed in the defensive line room and is a beast.
Hmm.
He's played what, 6, 7 seasons in the
Yeah,
NFL now?
yeah, something like that. Yep, and is a
All
Bengals
for his
captain and
home
has been a Bengals captain.
Yep, and all for his hometown team too, because he is
Mhm.
a Cincinnati product, went to Archbishop Moeller.
Mhm. So that wraps up the defensive coaching changes, even though we mentioned Chip Kelly off the top. But Keenan Bailey also given a 1 year extension through the end of next year to kind of follow the Larry Johnson model there. Um, yeah, I think, I mean, this is going to be a big year for Keenan. He kind of, was able to inherit Cade Stover in some respects, and was able to show, what he could do with Cade Stover. This is a big year for the Buckeye tight ends. I think there's a lot of, unproven talent in that room. You've got a transfer coming in, as well as G. Scott staying in the room, and then Jelani Thurman. So it's going to be a big year for Keenan Bailey and those tight ends to really see what kind of coaching he can do, what kind of development he can bring to the table in that room, which will be a big piece for the Buckeye offense that we didn't mention, along with Chip Kelly and that whole, offensive conversation too. So,
Mhm.
um, all in all, I think it was a big day. The one coach that did not receive an extension today was Tony Alford. I think he is up for an extension as well. So I'll be interested to see, what happens there. But yeah, all good things I think today for the coaching news that has come out of Ohio State, and couple that with the Chip Kelly news earlier this week. So big stuff for Ohio State there. I did have a note here at the beginning. CJ Stroud, Offensive Rookie of the Year for the Texans. Congratulations, CJ, on a hell of a season. Was able to take the Texans to the playoffs, win a playoff game, in a team that was dead in the water last year. I mean, the Texans were awful last year, but that shows the culture change that
Mhm.
why can't I think of the head coach's name?
D'Amico Ryans.
D'Amico Ryan's brought, as well as CJ Stroud. So, big things happening for the Texans. 6 Buckeye since 2016 to win either offensive or defensive player of the year. I mean, rookie of the year. So, shout out to CJ in that award given. Another NFL honor given to a Buckeye. Cameron Hayward wins Walter Payton Man of the Year. He's always been a very deserving player to win that award, and congratulations to him on winning that award, which is the excellence off the field, which if you have watched Cameron Hayward through his time at Ohio State and even in the NFL, speaks to the man that he is, and what he brings to the table both on and off the field. So congratulations to those 2 Buckeyes on the NFL honors. Do you have anything to add there?
No, I don't. Congrats to both of them. I'm really happy to see CJ, do well in the NFL. I was kind of one of those doubters going into it, but man, I think that he's found his place, and can't wait to see what next season looks like. And sixth Buckeye to win Rookie of the Year since 2016. How insane is that?
Yeah, there's a lot of there's another
I don't
program
remember
that's talking
Saban
about
doing that.
development. No, I don't think so either. But there's another program talking about development right now, which is very interesting because I don't remember when the last time they had a Rookie of the Year was or anything like that.
Are we talking about the team up there that just completely exploded? Yeah, I think they exploded because everybody went out, right?
Yeah,
It was
they're throwing around
most of
that.
their coaching staff and all 800 of their seniors are gone. So,
Yeah,
I mean, I
throwing
think they
around that
had like
development word a lot.
45. I think they had 45 seniors, and I'm sure 32 of them were fifth-year seniors or more.
Yeah.
So,
a lot of development talk out of that university, but not seeing them do the things that Ohio State is doing in the NFL.
Developing dudes that should be first, second year guys in the NFL. That's and they're still playing in college.
Right.
Great development, guys.
Yeah.
We'll wait for that. Who's going to win Rookie of the Year from them next year?
Nobody.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
I was just trying to figure that out. I wasn't sure if JJ McCarthy might or
no.
Okay. What about Blake Corum?
He has a very, very, very,
or is
very
he
much a larger. Well, he has a larger chance than JJ does, but no, probably not.
Oh, I was just wondering if he's too busy doing business with Connor Stallions to actually be in the NFL.
Right. Probably. Connor I think is his agent, if I heard that correctly.
Oh. So Connor goes and spies on all the other teams and agents and then gives Blake the down low. Is that how this works?
Yeah, that's exactly how that works.
Oh, okay. All right. Well, moving right along.
Yes.
Now to your favorite part of the episode.
Yeah. So obviously I hate, it's not my favorite part of the episode. I don't ever want to wish somebody to be jobless, right? Like I want to get that out of the way. I don't ever want to wish somebody to not have a job.
Can we also preface this with we're talking about millionaires that are losing a job that they're not going to be, it's not like they're losing house and home.
Right. But Chris Holtmann was finally dismissed of his duties this past week. What was that, 2 days ago or yesterday, whatever it was?
Yesterday, I believe.
Dismissed by the Buckeyes and will no longer be the head coach for Ohio State basketball. Great guy. Always enjoyed, hearing his pressers and seeing him interact with the students. Always gave away Raising Cane's to the students on campus and things like that. So great guy, but just could not, for whatever reason, coach the team past the non-conference schedule. Had some pretty big wins in his tenure against Carolina, against Kentucky, and Alabama. He won this year, so he had some pretty big wins in his tenure here, but just could not play in the Big Ten schedule, most notably in January for whatever reason. So the Ohio State basketball program has slid to a point where it is just, you can't beat around the bush anymore. There's just no other way to put it. It's time for a change, and change is what we will get with the Ohio State basketball program. So Chris Holtmann is out. Jake Diebler takes over for the remainder of this year. The Buckeyes are out of the NCAA tournament again, barring some kind of absolute miracle tournament, Big Ten tournament run or something to that effect. So, I can't overstate enough how disappointing it has been. There was a lot of people that that kind of were very optimistic, myself even cautiously optimistic about the way this team looked. Again, a 12-2 start. Now I think the Buckeyes sit at what, 14-11. So it's just, I mean, just not good. No consistency. Chris Holtman's calling card was on the defensive side of the ball. That has regressed. We cannot score. There's no shot makers or shot like playmakers or anything on this offense. Roddy Gale had a 34-point showing in a win against West Virginia and Cleveland earlier this year and has been completely absent since. Bruce Thornton is not scoring the ball like he had been in non-conference play. So there's just not a lot of good anywhere on this team right now. And, that starts with coaching. And unfortunately, the Buckeyes are back to the drawing board there to find their next head coach. Do you have any thoughts on this absolute dumpster fire of what we've seen at the Schottenstein Center the last couple of years?
Well, I think it started a few years ago, right around the time where before the transfer portal was really when the kind of downfall started. They had that big freshman class of 5 guys, and then all of them essentially transferred out. And then, recruiting has been decent since, but it just can't field a product that is representative of the university. And so it's left a lot of fans disinterested. I can tell you that I'm one of them. I'm not the biggest college basketball guy, but you give me a good Ohio State team and I will enjoy all 35 of those games every single year, plus the tournament. But you give me a team where I know exactly what's going to happen every January, and that becomes just a absolute train wreck. I stop watching. And I'm sure there's a lot of other fans like that are hardcore football, Ohio State football fans, and kind of casual fair weather basketball fans. And I think that this was needed to get guys like me back, the casual fair weather basketball fan. I'm excited to see what's next. But is Jake Diebler going to bring in John Diebler to teach some guys some shooting? I mean, we know how good John Diebler was at Ohio State, but Mr. Buckets. We know he's still got it too from the basketball tournament.
Which, by the way, Carmen's crew will be back this year.
Exactly. And I enjoy watching those guys because those are the good Buckeyes that, you watched growing up. And I'm hoping to get back to those days where you love to see that. I've seen some interesting names thrown out for his replacement. I think the best one that I saw so far was Jay Wright, formerly of Villanova, won 2 national titles there, I think. And then is at CBS now. I think he talks on the TV. I don't know if he's got any interest in coming back, but I'd be interested to see what that product is. Because, at Villanova, he didn't have a lot of stars. He didn't have a lot of guys that were one and done NBA guys. It was a lot of program building a system, and having those guys win within that system. So I'll be interested to see how this plays out, and keeping an eye out. I wouldn't expect anybody to be hired until after the season at this point.
Yeah, I think that'll be the new athletic director's problem to handle. Obviously, with Gene Smith on his way out, I don't really think that. I think this was his responsibility to clean this part of the mess up, and then he'll turn over the coaching search to the new AD. But before we move into some of these other candidates' names that are on the list here, I would like to point out, and you mentioned fair weather basketball fans, and I think for a lot of Ohio State fans that might be fair to say, but I think when you look at what Ohio State is and the type of school that Ohio State is, the type of athletic, program that Ohio State is, um, Ohio State going back to probably, the beginning of the Thad Matta days,
Even
was
before then.
the only school though that was as consistent in both basketball and football that
Mhm.
Ohio State was. You talk about multiple tournament appearances, multiple Final Four appearances at the same time that the Buckeyes were playing for national championships in football. So I think there might be a lot of fair weather college basketball fans, but in the grand scheme of things, Ohio State is a school and a program deserving of a product that is much better than what we've been exposed to in the last 3-4 years. And I think if you look on the Twitter, you'll see a lot of former players that have kind of voiced their displeasure with what they've seen. A lot of
Mhm.
guys like Joey Lane comes to mind, who never was a prominent player for Ohio State, but a very prominent bench presence, very prominent part of the Ohio State program for a number of years. Kind of voice the displeasure, but also the backing of Holtman for a long time. And again, like, I think there's not many people that you would find that didn't like Chris Holtman the person, but again, like, it's just time to make that decision to move on. And Ohio State deserves a winning basketball team, and they had one for a very long time, and one that was competitive in the Big Ten tournament as well
Mhm.
as in the NCAA tournament. I This might just be ignorance on my behalf, but I cannot tell you the last Big Ten tournament game that the Buckeyes won, let alone one NCAA tournament win in the last
It was
5 years.
probably the year that they won it, the Big Ten tournament. When was that? A couple of years ago. So, it's
Not a lot of results there. And I think
yep.
when you look at what's become of Ohio State basketball, they have the entire upper bowl. I don't know if you've noticed, but I've kind of noticed
Mhm.
in the game that I watched this year, or a couple of games that I've watched this year, that they've got the upper bowl just
Yep.
completely dark.
Awninged off. Mhm.
Oh, it's either awninged off or it's just completely dark. Like, they don't even have lights on that show the upper deck.
They
So I mean, it's
Yeah,
just
you can see it when you're in there. I've been in there more recently for hockey games than I have for basketball games, but they have curtains that hang down that are black
right,
curtains.
right. But they don't always do that for the Buckeye for the basketball games, anyways.
No.
So I mean, it's tough. It's a tough position for the program to be in, and I think there's a lot of talented players that are going to end up leaving the program once again after this year. So it's going to be a pretty intense rebuild for whoever they decide, or whoever decides to take that job. So I mean, it's going to be an uphill battle. Some of the names, again, you mentioned Jay Wright. I did see that one. That would be something. Some of the more, I think, doable names here on this list: Lamont Paris, head coach at South Carolina; Greg McDermott, head coach at Creighton, who's been at Creighton for a number of years. They've been a tournament team pretty steadily in the past. Nate Oates, somebody who I'm completely out on. Stay away from that one if it were up to me. Sean Miller, a name that has come up in the past for Ohio State coaching jobs. Eric Musselman, head coach at Arkansas, who's really built a pretty steady program down there in Fayetteville. Buzz Williams, who is now the head coach at Texas, and Jake Diebler, who is, as you mentioned, the interim head coach that's on the bench currently for the Buckeyes. So, a lot of pretty good college basketball names on that list. It'd be interesting to see where they go in that search. But it's going to have to be a coach that is willing to really dig in and try to restore the tradition of that Ohio State basketball program. And when you think of the Ohio State basketball program, you think of guys like Evan Turner, like Jared Sullinger, like Aaron Kraft, like John
Scooney
Diebler, like
Penn.
Scooty Penn, William Buford, David Lighty, Greg
Greg
Oden,
Oden.
Mike Connolly Jr. I mean, it's just, you got to get back to some semblance of what those guys built. And it seems like a lot of that is no longer there. and which is sad to see, and you hate that. But every program goes through transition, and unfortunately, Ohio State's transition in basketball has been a long one. So you just hope that they can get back to some semblance of I hate to pull a phrase, but the good old days in the shot. So be interesting to see what happens there. But again, a needed move for the Basketbucks.
Absolutely. You hate to see it at the expense of another human being. I prefaced this conversation with we're talking about millionaires who aren't going to be put out of house and home,
Yeah.
but you hate to see a family lose a livelihood and lose kind of their purpose. So our thoughts go out to Chris and his family, because to be honest, he is a really good human being.
Mhm.
It just he couldn't put it together on the floor,
Yep.
and you wish that he could, but you know, I you mentioned Mike Conley earlier, and
Mhm.
in that, and I had to figure out. I just had to look. He is still playing professional
Oh yeah.
basketball.
Yeah.
He's
Yeah. Yeah.
36 years old, still playing professional basketball. I think him and
Not
Michael
even
Redd.
just wait. Not even just professional basketball.
No,
He's
I know
still
he's
in the
playing in the
NBA.
NBA. I know
Yeah, so I mean, no slouch, Mike
for the
Conley Jr.
Timberwolves.
He's been a long time NBA
Mhm.
pro, a solid NBA player, earned some pretty good contract extensions, and yeah, shout out to Mike Conley.
Yeah, I was just about to say. I think he's pushing Michael Redd for longest Buckeye in the league.
Hmm.
I think he might have beat him out, but Michael Redd had a hell of a NBA career as well.
Yep.
So, yeah, I mean, thinking about that, Basketbucks, they'll be on the upswing, I'm sure, next season, and really excited to see whoever comes in. Do you think Jake Diebler has a shot to be the head coach?
We'll see. I mean, I think he's a guy that's been on the Buckeye bench for this might be his third season or second season, so he's been around the program for a few years. I would like to see how they finish, and hopefully the guys rally around him and really try to right the ship as much as they can for the rest of this year. If they somehow get invited to play in any sort of postseason tournament, what they could maybe do there. I think they may turn an invite down to whatever tournament they get invited to. I mean, they're gonna have to win some games, man, coming down the stretch, point blank period. And
Mhm.
this is going to be a tough, last month or so of the season. So I hope so. In a perfect world, you keep somebody that's been around the program, but I just I don't I don't mean this in a bad way, but I think it's gonna. I think it's time for Ohio State to pull in a proven head coach. Um, and I didn't put this name on the list, but a little inside baseball for you folks watching. I'm a graduate of the University of North Carolina at Greensboro. The University of North Carolina at Greensboro had a incredible program turnaround under the tutelage of a man that is now at Cincinnati. If I
Hmm.
am new athletic director Ross Bjork, I would get on the phone and maybe kick the tires of one Wes Miller. Young guy, coaches with a lot of passion, like I said, was able to turn around UNCG and make them a perennial 20-win team, made the tournament twice, should have beat Gonzaga, won a couple of Southern Conference tournaments, and is now, doing a wonderful job with Cincinnati. Um, I would love for them to swing on Wes Miller, see if he could, make another stop in his coaching career and come up north a little bit from Cincinnati to the Buckeyes. But I know that's probably a pipe dream. But I think Wes Miller is one of the better young basketball minds in college basketball, and I think that would be sweet if Wes Miller got a chance to come up and coach the Buckeyes. But like I said, probably not a very big chance of that happening. But we can all dream.
He's a Greensboro guy, so I don't
Mhm.
know that He has all the connections to Columbus, but I don't think that
Right.
matters these days.
No.
But I think you're right, and this is going to be a Ross Bjork decision.
Mhm.
And really, at the end of the day, the Basketbucks will be in a good position next season. And hey, we know how quick you can turn around a basketball team, especially in the
Yeah.
day of transfer portal. I mean, you can get a whole starting five out of the transfer portal, probably. Go
Which
pick up
is
some.
kind of what Ohio State is had to do. Maybe not starting five, but I remember what was it 2 years ago? They had
Mhm.
3 returning players in the program. So yeah, it's yeah, rough waters, but hopefully they can get it turned around and quickly. Um,
Yep.
but
And then,
last piece of news. Go ahead if you want it.
nope, it's all you.
What a lot of I don't know how much Ohio State fans have been looking for this to happen, but we are big hockey fans, big Blue Jackets fans as well. Finally, after years and years of people talking, all these other places getting the NHL Stadium Series games, and um, we kind of in Columbus kind of look over our shoulder and think, well, we've got a pretty sweet place to do one. The Horseshoe is finally set to host an NHL Stadium Series game on March 1st of 2025 between the Blue Jackets and Detroit Red Wings. Shout out to the NHL. Shout out to the Ohio State administration. Whoever was able to kind of come together and make this happen. We heard for a couple of years now that the plumbing at the shoe was not fit to host a game in these cold temperatures or whatever the lame excuse was. Um, but shout out to the NHL for finally making this happen in conjunction with Ohio State. It's huge for the Blue Jackets, which is again a team that's in a little bit of transition if you've been listening to the news. So, they're a team in transition as well. But it is, huge for the Blue Jackets to have this game. Really exciting young roster who is kind of, just itching for anything good. This is something good, something to look forward to. And, I think something that will come with this will be an outdoor game between Ohio State and Michigan hockey teams at the shoe, which, would be sweet. Why are you shaking your head no?
It's not. It's already been confirmed that it's not going to happen.
Oh, that's dumb. Well, they
Yeah,
should do that
yeah.
because that
I
would be
I
sweet too.
agree. I agree. I want that to happen, but it's been confirmed that the college teams are not going to play prior to the game, which is very disappointing. It is within the men's hockey season. That March 1st weekend is their last weekend of the regular season. So,
Okay, that makes sense. I was
um,
thinking when I had that thought pop in my head last year when the Canes played the Capitals at Carter Finley at NC
mhm.
State, the college teams who I think State and Carolina only have club teams, but they played at Carter Finley, but that was also in February, so a little bit different set of circumstances there.
Yeah,
So that sucks. Well, anyways, the big boys get the outdoor game, which is going to be sweet to see.
it'll
Obviously,
still be
the
an Ohio Michigan rivalry game.
Oh, of course. Yeah, yeah, absolutely. Which is gonna be sweet. That's gonna be awesome to see that atmosphere, what the shoe is gonna turn into for a
Mhm.
hockey rink. So, the two of us are excited. We plan to be in attendance with the rest of you crazy Blue Jackets fans and Ohio State fans and sports fans alike that will pack out the shoe just to see what kind of spectacle that's going to be. The NHL always does a really, really good job with
Mhm.
the fanfare surrounding those games. So that's going to be sweet to see, campus get turned into an NHL, a big ass NHL, fan fest wonderland for the Blue Jackets and Red Wings. So that's pretty sweet. So
Yeah, I'm excited for that one. I'm glad it's in March though,
yeah.
because or like that last weekend of February, early March.
Mhm.
The date's not confirmed yet of March 1st. We're still waiting on the confirmation of that, but that's the likely date right now. I'm excited for that because that means that it could be fairly decent weather for it. Stand
Yeah.
outside. I saw John Davidson today in his press conference with other news. The firing of Jarmo Kakalainen, was asked about the stadium series, and he could not confirm anything yet because obviously it has not been officially announced by the NHL. But all sources are confirming that this is happening. And he mentioned how beautiful it's going to be to pack the shoe with
It's gonna be
80,000
so
people
sick.
to watch a hockey game.
It's gonna be
So,
so sick.
I think what it is now is Columbus better show up and pack that stadium for
Mhm.
the game and make it a crazy raucous environment. Show hockey what Ohio and Ohio State is all about,
Yep.
and Columbus in general. So, going to be a great one. Excited for that one, and hopefully they'll have a team that's maybe in the mix next season. So, we'll we'll
So
we'll be ready for that when it comes. We're about a year away now, so
mhm.
got a lot of anticipation going on. Obviously, tickets haven't gone on sale yet, or I would love to have already purchased them. I think that they're going to be pleasantly surprised when that comes.
Yeah, I agree. Anytime you get to get back in the shoe, it's always a good time. Whether it be for the spring game that's coming up here in a few short weeks, or for a hockey game in March. So it's always fun. Always fun to get on here and talk to you guys about the Buckeyes and everything that's going on around not only football but basketball. As we had some conversation today, and even the neighbors, the Blue Jackets in town. So big week of news here in Columbus for Ohio State. Glad to be back on here and talking Ohio State athletics with you guys, most notably Ohio State football.
Mhm.
So, obviously, continue, guys, to, I think we're like 11 subs away from 100 on High Street Sports, which would be huge if you
Got to
guys
get
can
it.
push us over that damn line so we can get there and move on to the next milestone. So, appreciate you guys being with us here throughout the off season. We will be back as news comes in to bring everything to you guys. Vince, if you have any final thoughts, go ahead.
No, I'm excited for spring ball, and let's get on out of here.
Let's do it. Thank you guys for coming back. This was episode 45 of High Street Sports. For Vince, my name is Chris. We'll see you on the next one.